to Ferreira making the run hard down the side. So that's Bronco Hara, who's all the way out there. Hara for Ferreira, finds Arriola, and he roofs it to tie the game. First Dallas player to do so since Jeff Cunningham in 2009.
Bronco Hara here coming in.
Alan Velasco. They give back to him. Back heel. Bar 5. Cross. And Arriola almost had another one. It's a goal kick.
Well, good evening, everybody. Welcome to Big D After Dark. We're so glad that you have decided to listen in, to join us on this gorgeous evening, this Monday evening, June 13th edition of the After Dark podcast, where we talk about FC Dallas, North Texas SC, maybe a little United States men's national team, and a lot of other things, whatever comes to mind. And we take your comments and questions live. Send them in on Facebook, on YouTube, in the chat, and we will see them. We'll include them in the show. We'll pop them up here, and you'll shape our show. And, of course, you can also listen in on our podcast, our audio version, wherever you like to find podcasts. We should be there. I'm the host here, Nathan Hill, at Nathan J. Hill. There in the middle is Ismael at Belcora Ishma. And there on the end is our buddy Jose at El Chico Carmona.
Hello.
Hey. All right, good. Jose got in just as we were getting the show started.
In the nick of time.
Yeah, that's all right. It's better late than never, or right on time, actually, in this case. But we're glad to have you all join us. Please share the show. You can share it on YouTube, on Facebook, share it on Twitter. We love to welcome new folks and take your comments and questions live. We're going to get started with United States men's national team before we get to North Texas, which was an interesting weekend for North Texas. An interesting match for that team to sort of have to fight through. But let's start with the big news. 4 goals for Jesus Ferreira. America's striker, right? America's striker, ladies and gentlemen. And Paul Arriola with a goal. So let's just talk about that game. It was against Granada in the Nations League. I know Granada's not a world beater, but it was a nice performance after, some tougher opponents in friendlies in the past week. Let's just talk about what we saw from the match. Was this something, Ismael, that Jesus can build upon, and Paul can build upon as they stake their claim for a World Cup roster spot?
I mean, this is something that I think not only Jesus can build upon, he needs to build upon. Because, going on USMNT Twitter, of course you get the Twitter incels that keep talking about how this is just Granada, he hasn't proven anything, he can't score against big teams, yada yada. I mean, there's some truth to it, but I mean, again, he's the only one who's scoring. He's the only one who's playing. He's the only one who's consistent with the club. So, but even with the Uruguay game, he's going to start in the next international window that happens. I think it's September. That is really, it's reported that the games are against Saudi Arabia and South Korea, if I'm not mistaken, or Japan.
Japan, yeah.
Japan. Those are the games that I think he needs to score in, because by September you're going to have the strikers in Europe starting to play. Hopefully we hope players like Pepe and DK and Sargent are playing well. And if they are, then at that point, Jesus has competition. That is just the reality of it. And he is right now the first choice striker, but stuff can still change. So I think off of this, the main thing is to continue his form for FC Dallas, because, I mean, he was red hot. Well, not red hot. He was pretty hot entering the international window. He now has 4 goals and a very good performance. The key is now to keep going, because he has a couple of games until the next window. He has 10 or 12. These are the games that he needs to continue playing at the level that he is, and hopefully he is the hero at the World Cup.
Mm-hmm. Jose, your thoughts on Jesus' performance?
I'm very happy. I mean, I'd rather he get criticized for scoring 4 goals than for not scoring at least 4 goals. Yeah, it's it's he had what, like 7 shots or something like that on goal, and some people for some reason apparently strikers can't miss, so he should have made every single one of them.
Right.
So
right.
some of the arguments are just ridiculous. The Luca De La Torre is the MVP. You can't be the MVP of a match if you don't score a single goal. I'm sorry. At the end of the day, scoring a goal is what wins you the match. So I don't get that argument whatsoever. The kid looked great. Give him, workman of the match or standout performance, whatever you want to call it. But it's not. Anyway, you got to have fun. You got to laugh at some of the Twitter arguments. You want to see scoring. At the end of the day, is against this kind of opposition, I would be concerned if he didn't score at all. Then I would say, okay, we need to worry. But we've seen this before from Jesus. He just needs the confidence to show that he, once a goal goes in, then the floodgates open. And I mean, they should be excited about this. Honestly, at least an American striker scoring, it's a start. Let's build on it.
Right. Our buddy Ben Funch says, is Jesus getting a reputation as a streaky goal scorer? Seems to score in bunches or not at all. But, the more I watch soccer, the more I realize that, scoring goals is about confidence, as you say, Jose. Like, it is streaky for every guy, every player, even the best. It's about, your surrounding pieces, for sure. It's about your opponent. It's about the opportunities you're given. But it's so much about confidence and mental state and things like that. So if Jesus, that fits Jesus, I think it fits most goal scorers. I don't know. I don't know why the U.S. Men's national team fans, and Twitter especially, expect like superstars out there. Like a player's got to do it all.
And I think the main thing is that the U.S., more than a lot of teams that are going to the World Cup, is really a collective team. Because no one out there really, even if you consider Pulisic to be world class, none of the players has the team rotating around their play. It's always a collective where we score together, we defend together, we pass the ball together, we develop play together. That's the kind of mindset that Berhalter has in his team, and we see it with Nico. It's like when you compare it with other teams at the level of the World Cup, specifically a team like Poland, where the team rotates specifically around like a Lewandowski, then of course a player like him will probably score once or twice a game in the teams that they're playing. But with the U.S., it's a collective. So if the collective doesn't work like it didn't against Uruguay, then Jesus will not score. And I don't think Dike would score or Pepe would score. Any of them would score. So, I mean, I think the streaky concept made sense like last year or the year before when he wasn't performing for club. But he's performing for club now. So here, like, we can see that his talent exists. He can be consistent. He, right now, is having the time of his life with the DP status and riding on this high. So he's not having a confidence issue. It's just against a team like Uruguay, it was a collective effort. Against Morocco, his runs helped some of those goals go in. His movement in the box, that's how the U.S. plays. So I mean, he doesn't score against Uruguay when we play garbage. It's not his fault. And if that's what fans have gotten to at this point, then that's not great. That's not a great mindset to think in.
Yeah, to criticize a guy. Oh, this is the best goal right here. I mean, that corner. That's just beautiful. I wish he could do that with Dallas. I mean, it's a little harder to do maybe with against the competition, but a little bit more quality competition. I'll give the critics that yeah, Granada is not the highest competition that US is going to face this year. But on the other hand, you build confidence as a team. You take these minutes. You take your chances. It's hard to complain against that, right? And especially a classy goal like that from an assist from Kellen Acosta, might I add. Right, Jose?
Yeah, I just people forget how young this team is as a whole. I mean, there's some players out there that still qualify for the Olympics, that would be on the Olympic team right now, and these are your top players. So you just gotta sort of tune out U.S. men's Twitter because it's. I don't want to use a bad word just to say some of their expectations are way above what this team is known to perform. Historically, we're not a world power, and honestly, those are the expectations being placed on these guys. It's like, okay, we have to be able to go toe to toe with the top, 4 teams in the world, and that's like the level of play they're expected from these players. These players are still young. I mean, a 21, 22-year-old goes out there and has a bad game, and people start screaming, "I don't ever want to see that guy again in this team." Are you kidding me? It's the guy's still improving. So I just say it. I was happy to see the team win. They covered the spread. It was a 5-goal spread, by the way, so they actually performed as expected, believe it or not. And seeing FC Dallas players front and center, I mean, you gotta love it. You gotta love it. And
got to love it.
And at the end of the day, the same people that are complaining about Pepe not scoring in Europe are the same people that were crying that he should go to Europe. So you're never going to satisfy anybody. I think this team could do like a miraculous run and win the World Cup, and people would still be complaining. They would find something to complain about. You would not have. I have a feeling that U.S. Twitter would then suddenly start finding something else to complain about, like we should have done it 4 years ago or something like that. I was just saying. So you got to enjoy these games. I gotta love this game. I hope that this carries over into the next game tomorrow. That's what you want. You want to build a little momentum, even if you think it's a minnow. That momentum's got to start somewhere. You got to go out there and crush the teams you're supposed to crush, and build on that.
And this team is building confidence. They're building, familiarity with this, with every performance. And I agree. I mean, it's about building a sense of a purpose ahead of this World Cup. It's giving a lot of guys minutes, a lot of guys looks. I mean, Berhalter's going to have a tough choices to make. I think come the fall. I mean, most national teams, I think, will have that luxury, have that challenge of trying to figure out who to call up and who to lead back. And it's never a science. It's always based on guys' forms and things like that. So you'd rather see guys perform than not. You put up some goals, and 4 goals for Jesus. It's crazy that people would complain that he didn't score 8 or something. It's just ridiculous. Like, it's not a video game, It's just not a video game. It's life. It's complicated. It's messy. People are tired. People have issues to deal with. But yeah, here's his 4th goal. Good stuff. We'll leave it there with the highlights, extended highlights. But so on the other hand, away games in CONCACAF are kind of messy, tough, difficult. El Salvador, never a fun place to play. So I'm not sure. I think it'll be another chance for this team to figure out who they are, figure out their identity, and gain some experience together in a tough environment. Right? I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah. Well, let's shift our focus to North Texas SC before we close out with FC Dallas tonight on the show. Ben, we thank you for the comment. Tommy, sorry you couldn't make it, but glad you could listen in. Let's talk about North Texas SC. North Texas played the winless team in MLS Next Pro, Timbers 2, this past weekend. And it turned out to be a bit of a nervy game. I didn't pull up the highlights, but a bit of a nervy game, a 2-1 win. Timbers were able to pull one back, and then the game in the second half got a bit nervy. Timbers certainly made a game of it. Credit to them for pushing this young North Texas team. But at the end of the day, North Texas came out with the win. It may not have been perfect. Probably the worst scenario out of it was that Hope went off with an injury. Haven't heard yet if that's a serious thing. That could be a really tough thing if he's out for a while. He's such a spark for this team. So let's just talk about that match. Ismael, Jose, thoughts on North Texas's 2-1 win at home against Timbers 2?
I mean, should have been 3-1. That's the main thing. That's number one.
Yeah, that
really,
third goal was offside somehow.
The offside rule was rewritten at that point. I think so. We've kind of expected North Texas to just, with a lot of these easy teams, to just run these teams over. And I mean, when you look at the stats and the numbers, North Texas did. The scoreline is kind of favorable to Portland, but I mean, these games will happen where you will control the game, where Portland had one chance that was good and they scored it because of poor defending and poor control of the space. But North Texas SC controlled this game. I think it's disappointing that Mulatto had 4 shots and only 0.23 expected goals. Like, that's something that you want to improve, especially against a team like Portland where they're not very good. But again, these kinds of games will happen. We're not going to get 3-0, 4-0 week in, week out. At the end of the day, goal difference is not as important as points, and we are top of the table by 4 points if I'm not mistaken. So it's a fine result.
I think it's 3 now because St. Louis had 2 games this week, so
they're
3 points back.
So they have a game in hand, but
yes.
So they're 3 points ahead. So I mean, just go in next week and just try to play as good and then finish more chances. I think that's the main thing.
Yeah, and I actually am satisfied with the performance. You saw other teams roll out MLS players into their lineups. Looking here at Rapids, I'm looking at you. You started Zardes. You started Brian Acosta. You started Michael Barrios, for crying out loud, in an MLS Next Pro.
I mean, Colorado Rapids don't care. They're just like, hey, these are training games. Why not?
But they're not the only ones. I'm just saying, multiple teams rolled out several players that didn't. You don't want to see at this level. North Texas had a chance to do that. FC Dallas could have sent, Cerrillo or Roberts or someone like that down, but no, you don't see that from North Texas. North Texas rolled out many of the same players. They rolled out their 9th different backline combination. They still have the best defense in the league despite that, which is ridiculous. And it was their backup goalkeeper out there who's been rock solid, and looks like if Carrera gets moved to the senior team permanently, looks like the team will still be in good hands. So I think we got a tidy, professional performance from this team. Yes, there were nervy moments, but at the end of the day, you saw that this team kept its composure. It was consistent, no matter the lineup. And that's, you're starting to see that. I like seeing it here in North Texas and then seeing it in FC Dallas when we're playing on the road and stuff like that. You're seeing consistency at both. A lot to do with the coaching. I think you have to go and say, hey, you're not just seeing it on one team, you're seeing it in both teams. So it's a good sign as a whole that the coaches seem to be in sync as far as professionalism and consistent play from their players, which is great. I mean, I still don't think North Texas is the most talented team or close to being the most talented team in the league. They're just a well-coached team. They have excellent coaching, and that's reflected by the numerous different lineups they come out with, and still get winning performances. And that's ultimately what you want from a reserve team. You want to see them try stuff and still get victories because of it. So I love it. I think we expected a win. We got a win. It wasn't as dominant, but honestly, it was still a win.
Sure. And there's something, I mean, I think that's my, up 2-1, you either want the team to come out in the second half and grab that other goal, that insurance goal or you want, especially a young team, to learn how to just close out a game, just to hold on, manage the game, limit opportunities, because you knew Timbers, they were going to come out and they were going to throw everything they could. And I think credit to them. I mean, they've not been a very good team this year. And so, of course, in a scenario like this, they're going to say, hey, we have a chance to get a point. We have a chance to do something here. And they're going to come out and fight. So to see a young team say, hey, let's focus, let's lock things down, let's learn how to hold on to this win. I mean, that's so crucial. I mean, that's what a good team is. You don't get to score 3-4 goals every game. You figure out how to win with 2 goals to 1, So you figure out how to hold that on, right?
And to build on that, another thing you want to commend Coach Ka on is that when it got 2-1, and you're like, okay, we need to get another score, your teams usually go to the bench and bring in their better players to help close out the show. But that's not what happened here. What happened is they went to the bench and they brought in their 18-year-old striker, Torre. That's, this year's Camango, basically. And they went and got academy kid Urzua, who made his debut. And Santi Ferreira got brought in. So these are 3 young players. And they said, okay, you know what? We're up 2-1. We need to conserve this. We need to preserve this lead. This is a teachable moment. Let's bring in the young players and say, okay, you're going to go out there and we expect you to close this game out. We don't care if you're, this is your first game with this team or whatever excuse you can think of. You expect to go out there and perform, and North Texas took this opportunity to use it to throw these kids and have them perform. So you have to be excited about that the reserves that came in aren't the guys that you expected to come in to lock it down. They were actually the younger kids who are going to get the biggest, learning experience from this. Even if it's Timbers, it's still they had expectations and pressure put on them, and they performed.
I think the thing is to say, I'm curious about this too, and well-coached team, right? But also players, I think, who are buying in on the opportunity to play, knowing that there's a pathway to the professional level. But players also buying into a coach's vision and being up for it and providing energy and getting excited. Yes, some of that is from the coach, of course, laying that out, putting that out there. But I think there's maybe something to this, the culture of the FC Dallas Academy that says, hey, we want players who are going to buy into the vision here. And it may not be exactly what you wanted. You may be put in a position that you're not, you wanted to play right back, but we're going to put you at center back or whatever. But you say, hey, I'm up for this. I'm going to go for this. I'm going to see where it leads. I think we see that from these players, that they're flying around, they're energetic, they're competing, and that's an exciting thing to see. Go ahead, Ismael.
How's it going, Tommy?
Just to add, I think it's
doing fine.
Awesome.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
Yeah. I just think it's awesome because another thing that's reflected in that is we had like 3 new academy players on the bench with Lacey, Grimm, and Urzua. Urzua actually came in and got 14 minutes. And Urzua is one of the more interesting talents coming out of the academy because, again, he's He's kind of like a Corcoran in that mindset, but he's more defensively sound. So I think that's something that would be interesting to see how it develops in the long run, because he's a player that I actually think could like follow in Waldeck's footsteps and learn a lot from a player like him. Waldeck's actually like 9 years older than Urzua, and like that's where he has this system now. And like I think before, we always like North Texas had that pathway. It existed, but with COD, it's almost structural, and that this pathway is now like primed to let these players move into these positions, learn in these and grow in these games. And like this is just the beginning for Urzua. Like these 14 minutes, they're gonna compound over time. Like Santi Ferreira isn't a one-off. That's what should continue. So,
Yeah, good stuff. Well, let's listen to Coach Ka. I asked him. So at the beginning of the season, I asked him about MLS Next Pro rule changes. This league's doing things a little bit different. If the game ends in a draw, if there is an extra point available via penalty kicks. And he was pretty adamant that he was just like, I'm not into this. I don't know what the kids can learn from this, what these players can learn. Just play soccer, let's just play it the way we play it, And so I followed up at this point in the season to say, hey, how do you feel about it now? How do you feel about these things? And let's listen to his response.
The best experience is to be in it. And in the beginning, none of us did it. So when we were in Seattle, and I'll be plain and honest about it, after the 90 minutes, I'm like, okay, we get away with a point. And we felt like, this game, we let it go, because we could have gotten 3 points in this game. But then my assistant turned around and he already had a sheet ready for Vikram. My assistant turned around, he had a sheet of who the penalty takers are. And I'm like, and I looked at it and I just handed it back to him without even thinking what is happening here, because I was like 90 minutes. But then you see that that kind of pressure that it does, that kind of adversity, and my other assistant, Michelle, he turned around and he said, 2 is better than 1. So it kind of turned out good. So we're now in tune with it, because does it help the athlete? Yes, because does it put the athletes in a pressure situation where, at times you feel like, we should have gotten all 3 points. And if you get it in the penalty shootout, you still feels like a win. And if you're not in a game and then you get a tie, you feel like, we survived that one. So for the mental state and for the adversity for the players, I think it's a wonderful thing, because when we played Seattle again at our home, we were 1-0 up, get a man sent off, we grind out a tie, but then we lost in the PK, but which was for me a great learning point, because some of our shooters, it was a great moment playing 30 minutes in 110 degrees to be able to go to shootout and shoot and see how they felt after it and talk about it. For me, I'm not against it, because it was new for me. Like I said, that's why I always say you got to be open to new experience and see what it can give you. And after experience it, until now, for me, it's just, I just sit and laugh, because it's a beautiful thing. It teaches these little kids about facing this adversity. So that's what we want them to have, not only as players, but as human beings as well, because they're going to get tested through their careers and life. So this is great.
I love Coach Ka. I'm really sold on this guy, but his ability to be like, hey, I didn't get it, but it's kind of a little bonus. This is one of the gimmicks of MLS Next Pro. I don't know if they were hoping that this would help be like a marketable thing for the league in this first season, to get some fans interested, or to make it feel more excited. I'm not sure that that's a selling point, really. But on the other hand, it gives these guys an experience of pressure, and gives teams a chance to go out and kind of, hey, if we feel like we gave up a tough goal at the end, we can still go out and get another point and feel like we came away with something special. I don't know. So, but I appreciate that Coach Kosh shows sort of his own trajectory of like, hey, I didn't quite grasp it either, and now, but like, I'm kind of okay with it. What do you think, Jose?
I just want to add that Seattle, he means Tacoma, and the funny thing is, I looked up at the standings, and I forgot to realize that Tacoma also played 2 games. It is actually Tacoma that's 2 points behind North Texas. Of course, they have played an extra game. But the funny thing is that extra point that North Texas got at Tacoma that he was talking about is the actual difference. The reason that there's a 2-point gap. Because if North Texas doesn't get that point and Tacoma does, they're actually tied with Tacoma for first place right now, even though Tacoma would have the 1 game in hand. So it does make a difference in the standings. And if this was a professional league where let's say a USL League One or something like that, then I think maybe the PK thing would be a little ridiculous. But like you said, this is a reserve league. You want those teachable moments, and you can't deny that the PKs give that. They give teachable moments that you can discuss a game within a game, because these kids, when they move on and move up into other teams, they will at some point find themselves in PK situations that amount to something, and at least they can say, okay, North Texas or Major MLS Next Pro has prepared me for this moment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Good stuff. Well, let's go ahead and shift to, and Tommy, we want to welcome you, of course.
Yeah, I'm sorry I'm late, but hey, before we go to FC Dallas,
Sure.
because I was listening in the car, I wanted to just chime in real quick on the USA. A few years back, not too long ago, we lost to Trinidad and Tobago and missed out on the World Cup, and everybody thought that was an easy team. So, Trinidad and Tobago is ranked around 100. Grenada is more like 170. But the point is that, we didn't lose. I don't put a lot of value in these games as far as wins and losses go, because it's not the World Cup. It's just friendlies. They're not trying to win like Trinidad and Tobago was for the World Cup a few years ago. But you got to put value what you see on the field, and when you see that cross that we just talked about from Acosta to Ferreira and that shot on goal. Whether it's Grenada, whoever it was, I don't care who it was. That's a great shot on goal and great play. And where is the USA today compared to where we were 4 years ago with Dempsey, or even many years ago when we had Eric Ronaldo in the group? Where are we? Have we improved? Because we had that big movement back when we had the USA, had the World Cup way back when it was 86 or whatever, and they had all that mission to make U.S. soccer better. Are we there yet? That's the question I ask, and I don't know the answer. But I will say this, that I think the midfield has improved. I think the attacking has improved. I think I have questions on the back line of how we're going to do. Like we might, in this World Cup, I think that we might have a team that can score some goals. History showed in the World Cup qualifying that we had some slow starts against some teams in the CONCACAF. But I want to think that we're someone asked me that the other day. Hey, is USA going to do good? They know I talk soccer, and they said, well, I don't like that Pulisic. He's always losing the ball, But I think Pulisic is the best player that we've produced yet to date. It's questionable about Dempsey. I'm not a big Landon Donovan fan. But I don't know. We'll see. But I just think that things are moving in the right direction. I think we're doing the right things with, FC Dallas, the academy coming in. We might be a failure and everybody's going to be bad on FC Dallas, but I'm not seeing that. It remains to be seen, and I don't want to predict whether we're going to win or lose, but I got to think that we're heading in the right direction. So that was just my 2 cents. But
Good.
Yeah, I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining about the goals against Grenada. I also take it for what it's worth.
Right. Yeah.
And I just want to add to that this team is built around its midfield and its wingers. That's what's going to win these games. I know we're all griping about our strikers not scoring or complaining about backline issues, but at the end of the day, that midfield and those wingers is what this team is built around, and they're going to determine if this team wins or loses.
And earlier you hit the nail on the head. I thought I was in the car driving. We went to get snow cones, but you said this team is young, and it is a very young team. So if it's not this year, wait 4 years down the road, because I'm really big on Aronson and all the new young players that we've added to the mix. And I still believe in Pepe, and I'm going to say it right here. Pepe's not lost on this team. He didn't play But I don't think this was the team to go out and win the World Cup. I think this was just about seeing who else can play and giving more coach more data.
Taking that next step, really.
Right.
I mean, we failed to make the previous World Cup. We made this World Cup. That's a step. Now let's take it a step further, one step at a time.
Right. That's right. And I don't think there's. That's right. I think you're right. This team is young, and even if Pepe doesn't make the next World Cup squad, there's plenty of time. There's plenty of time for him to figure it out. There's plenty of time for a lot of these players to figure it out. And we even got guys like Walker Zimmerman who knows if he can move to Europe at some point, if he'll get that invitation and a possibility. It's just a lot of possibility for growth in this team. So you're right, and I think you're right that you take it out. The competition matters and the level, but the team won 5-0. So hey, that's what you expect. And that's what you should expect.
The biggest difference that I see, though, one quick, and it's just come to my mind. I should have said this earlier. One thing I see different today than I saw a few years ago is that the last 3 or 4 World Cups, we always pull heavily on players playing in Europe, and it's always a makeshift team. They never play together, and then we have World Cup, and we're pulling so and so from Germany's league and this league. He can't speak English. He kind of got a few words here, but what I'm seeing now is an American team. If that makes a difference, right? You know what I'm saying? Like we're playing because it's. And look, I have no problem with, and I don't want to be mistaken, but. I mean, if you're American, you're American. But the point is that when the players that are playing now play mostly in America, you care what I'm going at? It's like the heart is there, right?
You're saying that in the past we were desperate to find any dual nationals, and so
any way to get them through the door,
But then you would get a dual national who hasn't really been with the team in the build-up, and all of a sudden they're in the World Cup squad. And they didn't have those years like you're seeing now. Even the players that we have in Europe, they've been practicing with the team for several years, even while still being in Europe. So that's the difference.
That's a big difference. Yes.
The difference is even our European players are getting regular time with the team, where before is we'd get a dual national and it was like, okay, you're slotted in, go in and give us minutes.
Yeah, that's
the talent, but not the cohesion.
That's the little difference in games, right? It's the passion, right? I think that it means a little bit more if you're playing for your country that you're really from, And I have, again, there's nothing wrong with being a dual national, but
I think it's chemistry. I mean, I think it's chemistry. Yeah. It's the late additions. You add a talented player, but if it doesn't matter how talented they are, if they're not used to playing with a team, then they're never going to be on the same page. And you can see that the better teams make that a weakness.
Yep. Thank you for giving me that, coming back there, answer that, get some input there.
Good stuff. Well, let's shift over to FC Dallas. FC Dallas will get back in action this weekend against Vancouver, welcoming Vancouver to Frisco. But let's start with just a question I asked Nico. A lot of good stuff from the last Nico press conference, media availability. A lot of good stuff about. I asked him about the player care, and we won't show that clip, but he talked about their efforts to make players comfortable in Frisco and in the team, supporting the players and their families, and that includes the news that Alan Velasco did return to Argentina and then came back with his parents and his little brother, and so feeling a bit more comfortable. And also news too that there's still ongoing conversations with our goalkeeper, with Martin Paz, about an official. That snow cone sounds good.
Sorry, they're really good. It's chocolate.
That's great.
But about that acquisition, so it sounds good. But let's listen to Nico. I asked him about just transfers. I said, hey, what should fans expect this summer and the summer transfer window? And let's listen to his answer.
We're always looking. We're always alert. We are always thinking how we can improve the team. But also we have to see to improve the team. We know the standards are high right now, and then to bring someone It has to be someone that he gives and helps the team to make that another jump on the quality sides, right? And help us to perform in a different level. And it's not easy. It's not easy to do. And as you know, there is some restrictions on the budget. And maybe for us, it's maybe worth it to wait for next season because maybe we have a more better budget to bring a better quality players. It's something that we have analyzed in details. We don't have injuries so far, and then touching my desk, my desk just to keep going with that. But we are always alert with areas that we can improve. We know we can improve the team always, but it has to be a very specific. I don't think it's going to be a huge month of or summer transfer of movements. It will be more specific if in case we feel like we found something that is going to help us to be much better.
Something
Nice.
that will help the team be much better. And yeah, I mean, I think it was good for him to like knock on his desk there because really FC Dallas has been very fortunate with injuries. You look at a team like Sporting Kansas City, who have been decimated, absolutely decimated. And FC Dallas has been pretty fortunate. We don't know what the next couple months are going to be like. But with that said, we've had a couple of weeks off. We're looking toward that July window. Is there a move you would like FC Dallas to make, Ismael?
Yeah, I'm still on the U22 striker. I mean, maybe they're riding out the season at North Texas SC with Mulatto and seeing, and then making a decision whether or not they need a striker to back up or replace Jesus once Hara leaves. But I think striker position is really the only one where I have some worry. You could sign some wingers and a center mid, but I think if they're not planning on doing some signings, and that's what Nico sounded like, I think they have confidence in a player like Thomas Roberts, and they probably have then confidence in players like Shun, who we both know are players that are good, but I mean this season and the year or so that they've played in, they've struggled because of just their inability to stay consistent. So we'll see. As so far, again, we've gotten lucky with injuries, or maybe it's not luck. Maybe it's the conditioning coach. Maybe this conditioning coach has been the best conditioning coach we've had at the club. So, I mean, mainly it's just that U22 striker because, again, if Jesus is currently the Golden Boot almost halfway through the season, and that's not nothing. That's something teams will be looking at. So I think signing a U22 striker right now would be a good idea to see if you can train him up and if he could get to the level of being a starter next year instead of doing a winter offseason signing and just hoping it works, either DP or U22. So that's all, really.
Yeah, my take from what he said is that you're not going to get any Clavijo specials this summer. You're not going to get some random guy that's available on loan just for the sake of getting a look at him, which I think is what he was getting at. Is they're not just going to bring in somebody to take a gamble on. They're looking for quality, and they'll only jump if they get a quality signing that can come in and compete for minutes. Not someone that's going to come in and we don't see him, he only gets some minutes here, some minutes there. And then we wonder what happened, why we bring this guy in at all. And I think that's what he's talking about. He's got his depth almost figured out. He knows where he needs help at. But I think he's saying, look, I'm not just going to bring anybody. If this guy can't give us quality minutes and this is going to be, is a year away, then why bring him in at all? let's bring in a guy that is going to, if we can find somebody to come in and compete and give actual minutes to the rest of their starters, that's what they're looking for. He didn't specify, specify positions, but I think we all would be happy with like Ishmael said, a striker would make us a lot happier. They're tough to find. They're very expensive. So I think that'd be the one we'd like to see, but I'd be okay with another, defensive mid. A winger would be on the same thing as a striker. If we bring another winger, it's got to be a guy that's got to, be able to give minutes. If he's going to sit behind Shun or Ahmed Kahar or some of those guys, then there's no point in bringing them in. So I think, honestly, the only other thing I like to see is we talk about how Paxton's getting all these minutes and stuff. Farfan is getting a lot of minutes over at left back, and honestly, we either need to see what Parker can offer there behind him, or bring in another left back that's going to give him some rest, because we haven't discussed that Farfan's one of the other players that is getting a ton of minutes and is still young. I mean, he's 23, I believe, so it's that's going to wear him as the season goes on.
Yeah, so I was going to say is that the team's been winning. So, I mean, who do you want to take out when you want to sign someone, right? I mean, we want to see Velasco develop and get better. And quite honestly, just going back and thinking about the last game that he played, it wasn't very good. He's, he's showing some signs of immaturity. So he needs to play, but he also needs to grow up, be a little bit more mature. Go ahead. Right?
What I'm getting at is you're not going to sign a starter. You need a guy that
right,
comes
exactly.
and give you quality minutes. I mean, if you have someone like Velasco, and let's say you've already pulled Arriola and you've already got O'Brien on the other side, and Velasco is having a bad game or gets a tweak, and you got to pull him. Who's your fourth winger? That you can confidently say he's going to come in and impact the match.
Well,
we have some young players that we think can help, but there's not going to be a player like O'Brien that can come in and still offer danger to an opponent at in the last 20-30 minutes of the match.
Yeah, the worst thing that can happen to FC Dallas is Jesus Ferreira get injured, between now and the World Cup.
There.
Yeah.
Knock on wood.
Yeah, knock on wood. But I don't see anyone coming in. But I think just like as we saw when we sold Pepe, we all of a sudden kind of opened the doors to new people coming in. So the best thing for FC Dallas is that Jesus in with a good year, have a good World Cup, get sold for a lot of money, and then basically go back and spend again. I guess the question I'd have for Ismael and Jose is like, who's from North Texas SC do we see getting called up? Because is it Parker going to be called up, or is it someone else that's shown that maybe they need some minutes, just closing minutes to start getting some time in MLS? I think that's where we might see the change come from.
I actually brought up Parker because, believe it or not, when I was watching the Timbers game, I was like, who's that big guy over there with the ball that's, muscling people around? And then I realized it was Parker.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, he's starting to look like a man amongst boys at that level. And this is mid-season, is around the time you want to see some of these North Texas guys that are loaned to North Texas be given minutes with the senior team. And I think Parker's getting there. I think Parker's getting to the point where it'd be nice to see him get some minutes with FC Dallas. So that's one of the players I would like to see for sure coming up. Noah Bartlett.
No.
Colin Smith, believe it or not, has been playing at winger again. They've been, I think I don't want to say he's been beaten out by Pope, but Pope's been playing exclusively at right back, and Colin Smith still plays there from time to time, but lately they've been playing him at left wing, right wing, and honestly, he'd be an O'Brien type player that, a lot of speed, making dangerous runs, but you're not going to get that finishing, that playmaking ability at the end. But it's a player. He's a player. Colin Smith is a player that could give you that burst of energy against tired legs like O'Brien does. Of course, he'd be a much rawer version of that, though. I don't want to say he's at the same level as O'Brien. I'm just saying he's that kind of player, linear, speed, to spare. But once you get to the third, you got to cross your fingers.
I think for FC Dallas fans, the one thing that you got to look at is what happens with Sean. Look, he just went over there. I didn't see him play against Germany. I was just checking. He's not really playing with us here. So the question is, do we offload him in the summer? Does he stay on?
It's just a lot that he keeps getting called up there. So, like I said, I would not be surprised if he gets loaned to a Hungarian team or a team that they've played against, because he's basically, if he's with that team, there are coaches that are with the team that are getting a look at him who, are probably talking to him and say, hey, if you're not getting minutes over there, we can find you minutes over here, because clearly the Hungarian team values him and wants to see him, they're calling him up so he gets minutes. So I would say I think he's a player that again, I believe he's probably heading towards a loan is what I like to see. It's probably what's best for him. He needs minutes, and if he's not getting with this team, he's not going to get in with North Texas, and I definitely don't want to see him go down to the USL Championship. I think he's above that level. At least I think he is. I'd be disappointed if he's sent to that level.
And the other thing I was looking at while you were talking is that the MLS final is November 5th. So consider that if FC Dallas would make it to the final and play, Jesus could be playing on November 5th, and USA plays England on November 25th. So just the timing of the final and the USA's first game. Jose, I'm pretty sure Jesus wants to go to the World Cup fresh and not be run to the ground. So it'd be interesting to see the coach.
Did you say we're making MLS Cup? Is that? That's what I'm getting
at.
It's like
Cup of the playoffs.
Lead us to MLS
Cup playoffs.
And then he's got.
If we don't make the Cup, the playoffs going to be a few weeks before that.
I don't think Jesus would have a problem with that at all. If you tell Jesus, hey, if you make MLS Cup, you're only going to have X amount of days, I think he would be happy with that.
I think we all would be. But not just that. It's just watching his minutes throughout the whole year, right? Want to keep his legs fresh toward the end of the year,
They are. I believe it or not, they are giving him rest. Hara has gotten a start here and there. He's gotten minutes.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, Jesus is a very young player, and young players, some young players can handle those heavy minutes. It depends on the player, and I think Jesus has shown in the past that he can handle a lot of minutes. So I'm not concerned with his load, as opposed to say someone like Paxton who's coming off an injury. Those are the players that you're concerned with the load on them. But I think Jesus is fine. I'm not concerned with that. With his, it's too early for that. I said I'm more concerned for, like you said, Ismael, get another striker here, because there's going to be times where Jesus maybe gets nicked up and needs to rest a game or two, just to to recover properly. You don't want to be rolling him out there injured. You don't want.
FC Dallas is not the same team with Hara up top, although Hara's not necessarily a bad option, but he doesn't press like Jesus, and has the legs, right?
Yes, but Hara does seem to be finding his rhythm with his team. He does seem to be finding ways that he can help. Yeah. That he can help, and that's a positive sign. He's not the answer behind Jesus, but he's also not a bad option. You're just wondering, hey, he's not going to be able to go the full 90 minutes, so you need to have that third option to relieve Hara once his legs eventually give out. So I think he can give you a good 60, 70 minutes. But if Hara's still out there in the 90th minute and you're chasing the game, that's not a good scenario.
Well, let's begin to wrap the show up. I think we've covered that a good amount of conversation about what that might look like. Of course, I think my question for this is not so much our prediction for this game this weekend. I mean, Vancouver, they have a good coach. I think he's getting something out of this team. They obviously we can look back at that loss at Vancouver, disappointing. When FC Dallas probably should have at least gotten a point if Paz had been available. But they're coming to town. You expect to win. You expect to win at home, even against a Vancouver team that's been doing all right. My question is, who breaks out going forward from this match? My answer is Alan Velasco. I think he's had time to settle. He's already shown flashes of what he's capable of. His parents are here. His family's here. He's going to be a lot more comfortable, a lot more settled. The moment is now. He's had a few weeks to even just take a breath. I'm expecting a big game for him this weekend. Or maybe somebody else is going to be having that big game going forward. What do we expect this weekend from FC Dallas? Ismael?
Expect a difficult game because Vancouver actually played last week, so they're not as cold-legged as we are. Also, they had just had a DP come in, a defensive mid DP who's been trained. I think he's training this whole week, so he probably will play. And Jesus and Arriola are going to come back tired. So, I mean, it's not going to be an easy game, I don't think. And we lost the last one, so it would be naive to think we would win. I think breakout player, it has to be Velasco. It's not just I think it would be. I think it has to be. Because, I mean, we still have the first-year difficulty concept for international signings, but at this point, now that we know that he's comfortable, he has his family around him, he has hopefully that cures a little bit of the homesickness. He's now had time to have a break and has been training with the team now, more camaraderie, more chemistry. I think now it would be great to see better performances and then eventually to put numbers on the board at the rate that Arriola has. Maybe not crazy numbers, but like at least somewhat consistent. But, I mean, I'm just glad for FC Dallas to be back. I'm tired of watching pretty bad international games like Peru versus Australia. I just want some good soccer. My God, that game was so boring.
I think pointing the direction, the arrow to Velasco is the right thing. Although I think it may not be his time yet to flourish, to become that superstar yet. I'm hoping it is, because you see the flashes. I would just want to see him be more, smart on the field and hold his emotions and not give the silly foul that he gave up, stuff like that. But it would not surprise me that we start the game with either Jesus starting and playing just a half, or we start with Hara and Jesus comes off the bench. Same thing with Arriola, being that they just played all those international games. Something we'll see. We'll see how coach handles that. I mean, I don't have a guess, but it's something to look out for. And I always say also O'Brien is also a player to watch out for, because I think he's got that speed.
I'll throw you guys a curveball. My breakout player to look for is Brandon Cervania.
Okay.
And the reason for that is you got to remember that when we played in Vancouver, they played that low mid block. They basically just clogged everything up and dared FC Dallas to break them down. Now with Velasco back, you're going to have players that can break them down and create opportunities for other people. So I think they're going to be wary of Jesus. They're going to be wary of Arriola. They're going to be double teaming Velasco, and that's going to open up opportunities for Paxton and Cervania. And with Cirillo started in Vancouver, but it's probably going to be what's his name, Quignon starting. I think you're going to see Cervania wander forward a lot more with a lot more space than he had available in Vancouver. And Paxton, I still think, is more of a facilitator than a finisher. So I think Cervenia is going to get a couple of shots on goal, and if he gets a couple in, this is the guy I think you're going to see it's going to open up for. And he's the guy that I'm looking for that I think will have a breakout game against Vancouver. So
All
right.
Cervenia, my first option, Paxton, my second option.
Okay.
So, but Nathan, to not even talking about players, I think one thing to look out for is, at the beginning of the year, Nico started out playing defense, not giving up the silly goals, and then you see little different wrinkles throughout the year. The question, I think as a fan or as a soccer guy, watching the game Saturday, is what's going to be new on the offensive side? What's the new wrinkle that we've never seen before, coaching tactic-wise? And I think that's what I'm most excited about on the game on Saturday. What's going to be new tactically?
Yeah, good thought
New
there.
wrinkles.
I think something for us to look at because they've had some weeks now to put in some things and to work on some things. So it's exciting. All right, good.
Yep.
Well, let's leave it there. So just a heads up, I'll be international starting on Wednesday. All things going well. And we'll be on the other side of the continent. So we'll still be going live. We'll still be figuring it out. It may look a little bit different. It may not be quite so polished. But we'll work on it, and hope to see you all there next Monday. It may be morning for me, whereas it's evening for y'all. So whatever, we'll deal with it. But in the meanwhile, we got a lot of we got North Texas, we got FC Dallas this weekend, we got a United States men's national team tomorrow evening. Plenty of soccer to enjoy and plenty of soccer to talk about next week. All right, we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.